friends, thank you so much for joining my weekly Facebook Live series. Today we're going to talk about how to say yes to saying no at work. And if you don't know me, I'm Caroline Castrillon. I'm the founder of Corporate Escape Artist, and I'm a business and life coach that helps people escape their 9-to-5 jobs so that they can find fulfillment working for themselves. So how to say yes to saying no at work. Well, maybe you're like most people, you feel overwhelmed at work, you've got way too much on your plate, you're tearing your hair out thinking, how am I going to accomplish all these projects? Well, you're not alone. Actually, Deloitte did a study that showed that 3 out of every 4 companies actually says that their employees feel overworked and overwhelmed. And in another survey, actually 3 out of 5 employees said that they felt highly stressed, with workload being the #1 stressor. So it's no wonder, especially with technology these days, we can't get away from our jobs and our cell phones. And it's just, we're living these really hectic lives. So how do you say no at work? How do you say no to meetings and projects in a way that still allows you to be seen as a team player and so you don't jeopardize your job? Well, it is possible, and I'm going to give you some tips on how to do that. And first, I'm going to give you some specific scenarios on when it's appropriate to say no at work. So when is it appropriate to say no at work? Well, the first scenario would be when a project interferes with your core responsibilities. So you have a specific job description and specific responsibilities that you've agreed upon with your company and your manager. If this request interferes with that, and maybe there's another person in the company who's more appropriate or has the skill set and can accomplish the task in less time, then it's definitely appropriate to say no. Another scenario would be if the project or request interferes with your short and long-term priorities. So what I suggest is, most of us have whiteboards at work. If you have a whiteboard, write down all your short and long-term priorities on your whiteboard. That way the whole team can see it. And if a request comes in that doesn't align with one of those priorities, then you definitely have a case for saying no. Another scenario would be if it interferes or conflicts with your goals. So you have an agreed upon set of goals with your manager for the quarter or for the year. If this request conflicts with that, if it conflicts with the bottom line, because hopefully your goals do align with your company revenue, then you definitely have a good case for saying no. And then the last scenario would be, does the request conflict with your values, or do you just know that you can't deliver results? If you committed to putting your kids to bed every night and your manager's asking you to work till 10 o'clock, that would definitely conflict with your values. Or if you just can't deliver results, maybe you don't have the skill set required to complete the project, and it's going to take you 2 or 3 times as long as it would somebody else within the company to complete the project. Then you definitely have a good case for saying no. So those are some scenarios in terms of when. Now, but then there's the how. So how do you say no at work and not jeopardize your job and still be seen as a team player? Well, it definitely is possible. I'm going to give you some tips. And the first tip I'm going to give you, though, is you want to do that in person. You want to say no in person because this is something that should be delivered face-to-face. And, email can be misconstrued. So try to say no in person if you can. And then there's 2 facets to how to say no. You can say no to meetings and you can say no to projects. Now, we all know that meetings are a time suck, and a lot of managers set up meetings so that they can look busy. And if you're spending more than, let's say, 20 to 30% of your time in meetings, which probably most of you are, that's too much. So how do you prioritize which meetings to attend? Well, you're going to want to look at specific criteria. You're going to want to look at the value of the meeting. You're going to want to consider whether you're the appropriate person to attend the meeting. And then you're going to want to look at whether this is a priority for you. So if you say no to one of those 3 things, then you probably shouldn't be attending the meeting. And there's different ways that you can handle that. One is to send someone else, empower someone on your team to attend on your behalf, and then you can get a download or a summary from them afterwards. Another option would be to suggest an alternative. Maybe you don't even need a full meeting. You can suggest a one-on-one or a conference call, and you can handle the matter in, much more quickly. Or you can decline the meeting, but present your feedback in an email to the organizer in advance. So that way you're contributing to the meeting, you're still being seen as a team player, but you're not actually attending the meeting. And then another option actually is you can attend maybe the first half of the meeting. Let the organizer know that that's the portion that's relevant to you. You have other priorities and that you're going to have to leave a little bit early. And that will save you some time as well. So those are some strategies that can allow you to handle meetings and say no to meetings that maybe aren't as appropriate for you to attend. So how do you say no to projects? Well, with projects, you're also going to want to look at specific criteria when evaluating those when they come in. You want to look at the deadline, your values and commitments, and what's the effort involved in the project? How much effort is required? So if you just, don't have the bandwidth, if it conflicts with a personal commitment or your personal values, or you just feel like the deadline is unrealistic, then you definitely have a good case for saying no. And again, I encourage you to do that in person because emails can be misconstrued. So try to deliver that information face to face. Now, how to deliver that information? Well, I'm going to give you some specifics, and I'm going to have a link to these from my blog on corporateescapeartist.com. But Susie Welch offers these tips. She's the best-selling management author. And her first tip is just to prepare a set of responses. Have a list of responses ready in advance. And they all start with, thanks for thinking of me, but. So you could say something like, thanks for thinking of me, but I'm overscheduled to a fault right now. That way you're being professional, you're saying no, you're still being seen as a team player, and you're being truthful. You can also say something like, thanks for thinking of me, but there's really someone else on the team that's more appropriate to lead that project. Maybe there's someone else who has a more robust skill set in that specific area, and they're going to be able to accomplish the task twice as fast. Then you definitely have a good case for saying no. Susie also recommends, her second tip is just keep it simple. You don't have to give an overly complex explanation. You can just say something like, no, I'm sorry, I have a personal commitment that I just can't get out of. And if you can't say no flat out for whatever reason, try to negotiate and offer an alternative. That way, at least you're still somewhat in control of the situation. So let's say your manager asks you to work till 10 and you have a conflict, you have maybe an appointment at 8 o'clock, you can say something like, well, I can't work till 10, but I can work till 7. And so again, that way you offer an alternative, it gives you a little bit of control over the situation, and you're being seen as a team player because you are making a sacrifice on behalf of the team. And then finally, her last suggestion and tip in terms of how to say no is to end the conversation on a confident note. So after you say no, say something like, and thank you so much for understanding, because it ends the conversation on a confident, professional note. And it also doesn't allow for any back and forth. It puts an end to the conversation in a nice way. And then I want to offer you a last tip, which is practice saying no in your life, even in your personal life, because if you practice saying no in small ways, it's going to make it easier for you to say no in bigger ways and in your professional life. So start practicing saying no. Let's say you're at a retail store and you're at the cashier and they ask you if you'd like to apply for that credit card that you don't really need, or you're at the restaurant and the waiter asks you if you want to have that dessert that you probably shouldn't have. Practice saying no in small ways, and it's going to make it easier for you to say no in bigger ways in your life. And just remember, saying no is going to give you the time and the energy to focus on the work that's really going to drive your career forward. So anyway, I hope this information was helpful to you. If you want to visit my website at corporateescapeartist.com, I'm going to have more information on this in my blog, and there's other blogs that have topics I think you'll be interested in as well. You can also download my free resource, 5 Signs It's Time to Leave Your Soul-Sucking Job. And I have some tidbits in there from my own experience that I think you'll find enjoyable and hopefully will resonate with you as well. And again, I'm on Facebook every Wednesday at 12 o'clock Central live, so you can find me there. Please feel free to reach out to me at any time with topics that you'd like to hear about, or if you just want to tell me your story, I'd love to hear from you. And so until next week, I will see you soon, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me today.